party. More so now, as we head into the general election, there are going to be many conflicts. And even as we do our internal party elections, there are lots of conflicts. And even now, as we head into the Matungu party primaries, we know there will be lots of things here and there. And therefore, as party members, as party officials, on how to deal with this internally. So I just want to welcome all of you. Let us participate in this program so that we learn, we get something out of it. So without much ado, let me hand over the program back to the facilitators. That is Nicholas Meli and Evelyn Mwange, so that they can take us through. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edie. Thank you, Kenya, and all participants that have joined us. I'm seeing we have 16 participants. We're still expecting more participants, but they'll find us in the way.
Are we okay?
Yes, Edie, I think we're okay. 16 members. So we will proceed so that we don't waste more time waiting.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, maybe you can proceed.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Kenya. It is still trying to talk.
Proceed.
I think,
Proceed.
Okay, thank you. So thank you so much. Welcome members again. And I would request that as we have been told by Isaac, we try to mute when we are not talking so that we avoid the interruptions. And then when you want to talk, you can raise your hand, and you can physically raise your hand, or you tap on that button for raise hand. I would request that this session we at least try to make it lively by making it a discussion, because our topic today is dialogue and conflict resolution, and already we are in dialogue. At this meeting as it is, we are talking. It is a dialogue. One, maybe I'll just say a simple definition of dialogue. And there are many definitions, but let me say what I was able to gather from my training and my notes. One, dialogue is a special form of communication in which the participants seek to actively create greater mutual understanding and deeper insights. But a simple definition is a conversation between two or more people. That's dialogue. And the other aspect, which is conflict resolution, is a way for two or more parties to find a peaceful solution to a disagreement among them. We know very well dialogue and conflict follow each other, whereby if a dialogue becomes escalates, it becomes a conflict. When people are talking and discussing something, or they're trying to agree on an issue, and then it escalates. They fail to come to a consensus. It becomes a conflict. That's whereby we have a conflict resolution, whereby now we find a way of dealing with this conflict. I will go through my notes very fast. Dialogue is about making a joint effort to understand each other's opinions and understand more about the topics we talk about. When you're in a discussion, it could be 2 or 3 people, or a meeting in an organization, you trying to discuss an issue. Maybe you want to do something, you want to achieve certain thing, and you're discussing to get views and come to a common ground whereby you can achieve what you're intending to achieve in that discussion. The other thing is to be open to learn something new and dare to change our opinion if we do. The other thing is to include everyone when we are more people talking to each other. So basically it says when you're in a meeting, maybe 2 or more people, it's important to learn and to understand and to give room for other people. Otherwise, if you don't, and then it doesn't become a dialogue, because now it means like you're talking to yourself or you are commanding. But basics of dialogue is whereby you talk, you give the other people room, you listen, and you become understanding of other people's views and reactions. Dialogue is not about defending your own opinion or convincing the other person that you are right or winning an argument. For a dialogue to be successful or to generate a positive result, you don't take it as you are the person who is right. You want to win an argument. You want to be on top of the other people. You want to make yourself like you know everything. And as we're moving forward, we know this is a day-to-day experience in our daily life. We go through this dialogue and conflicts, maybe in our offices, with our colleagues, in our families. These are day-to-day things. So it's not a new thing that we're bringing something that it's totally new to any of you. Dialogue, it becomes, something becomes a dialogue when you take it like it is not your personal thing. It's something that generates a positive reaction from every one of you. We have dialogical values. Basic values in dialogue are trust. You must trust each other first. You must be open. You must be honest. And then equality. If you don't have those values, and then that dialogue becomes something different. You must, if you're in a meeting, you must have to trust the other person that to sit with you and discuss this particular issue. You must be open. You must be honest to yourself. But if you're coming to a meeting and you're having other negative intentions, you're not open, or you don't want to be equal and listen and be listened to, and then it becomes a problem. That's, you're deviating from the basic meaning of dialogue. And we're told a dialogical conversation is whereby you have the basic values within you, And then you have the right mindset, which is called the dialogical frame of mind. And then the practice, which is the dialogical practice. These are the things that you must be having in you. You have to follow those basic things in dialogue. And before I proceed even there, let me just challenge you that if there's a meeting, it could be 2 or 3 people, and then people are shouting to each other. What comes to your mind? Maybe you're just seeing people having a meeting, 2, 3 people, because I'm sure we come across this maybe in our day-to-day lives, in these political meetings, in our branches. And so I'm asking, when you find people arguing and shouting at each other, what does that come to your mind? So I'd like somebody maybe to, because I want this meeting to be interactive, so I don't want to just lecture on what I know, because we all know one thing or the other. So I'm just asking participants, when you find people actually exchanging harsh words, what does that tell you? Anybody? Anybody, you can raise up your hand.
Nicholas.
Yes.
I suggest that maybe we do the presentation first and ask the participants to put down any questions that they have, so that we can do it in the next hour during the plenary session, because before we finish the presentation, we'll have a lot of interruptions and we may not move very fast. So I suggest that we do the presentation, and then from the presentation, I'm sure there'll be issues that will be arising from the presentation, then they can ask during the plenary session. Is that okay, Kinywa?
Okay. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's okay, Flynn. So thank you. So we continue, and we know we are in a political field, and we go to rallies, we go to political meetings. So sometimes most of these meetings are one way. One way, that means that person who was called for that meeting or that rally is trying to convey his message to the people. So it doesn't give the audience time to respond. Those are not dialogical meetings. Those are not dialogue. Dialogue is basically when people talk. So we need to make that clear understanding that you just, like, you see somebody addressing people and then he leaves, and then you want to call that dialogue. Dialogue is when people sit and talk, when people are talking to each other. You discussing, you giving the other people time to talk, you listen. That's what we mean by dialogue. We have discussions and debates. Those are basically forms of dialogue also, because it involves all the participants. We argue to win an argument and gain power and influence. Those are in politics. But you see, when you go to an argument, that becomes most likely can generate a conflict. Because in dialogue, what we want to know, and as we go through this session, is that we want to understand how to make meetings more dialogical, whereby we are understanding each other and we're reducing conflicts at the end of the day. Because nobody wants a dialogue that at the end of the day, there's a lot of disagreement, that's caused a lot of tension, people are fighting, and then it becomes very difficult to return things to normalcy And then now we go and spend a lot of time and energy trying to resolve a conflict that generated from that meeting. So we must have understanding that one, you must have the basic values when you're having a discussion or a meeting, so that you don't escalate, it doesn't escalate into a conflict. As I said earlier, dialogues must be constructive, but not destructive. Because the moment they become destructive, is where we get conflicts among the parties involved. And I would have loved to have shared some diagrams or some photos, but we're not able to upload, so that you can see in photos whereby if you see somebody pointing a finger to someone, and then that means that dialogue is almost generating to a conflict. You know, the way that the people, the way the meeting is taking place, you can read one or two things. If people are sitting and they're calm and they're smiling, and then that tells you the meeting is more dialogical, whereby people are agreeing on each other. It's constructive. They're having a discussion that's leading to something positive. But when you see people pointing fingers at each other and shouting, maybe some other people are standing, you know, you find maybe 2 or 3 people are standing, and then that means there's no order, or people have a disagreement. They are not agreeing on what they are discussing. And then that dialogue is almost generating into a conflict. So those are things you need to know, even if you are in a meeting of big people, and then a big group of people, and then you see 1 or 2 people standing at the same time, and then that tells you that meeting is almost generating to a conflict. So as we move forward, we'll learn on how to plan constructive meetings, whereby how to plan and facilitate those meetings that will generate a constructive dialogue, whereby people will respect each other and follow the right process in those meetings, whereby they will not be getting annoyed or trying to cause disturbance in meetings, trying to shout. So there are those things that you'll have to learn on how to plan for a dialogue that will give everybody a fair level ground, so that you achieve or you get a constructive discussion. So basically, there are those 2 aspects, the constructive and the destructive discussion or meetings. So in constructive discussion, we have respectful negotiations or respectful discussions, whereby it leads to a compromise or a win-win situation. But when it's a situation whereby one person feels that he wants to win the discussion, and then now that becomes a destructive cause, you'll not have given the other people level playing ground. You will not have given them the basic values I said, that honesty and being open and giving everybody time and listening, so that you're able to generate a constructive discussion. Destructive discussion outright damages and fuels conflicts. When people are shouting at each other, when people are trying to undermine the other people, they're trying to use maybe bad language, they don't want to listen when the other person is talking, those automatically damages the discussion and causes an conflict. So as much as possible, you must understand that the other person is important in this discussion, in this dialogue. Once you've called a dialogue, you must give that person the level playing field. That you really want a discussion, you must understand that you have your views, you have your issues, the other person has his own views and his own issues. So you must put all those perspectives in order before you start a discussion. In a discussion or a debate, what automatically people think is, I want to win this thing. Maybe if you're having a difference in leadership in a branch, for example, it could be a chairman of a branch. He knows it's a chairman, is the head of the branch. When he attends that meeting and automatically says, puts in his mind that I want to win this discussion. And then finally, and obviously, there are people who will disagree because everybody has his own way of looking at things. Everybody has his own way of thinking and reaction. So if somebody comes to a meeting or a discussion with that set of mind, that most likely to generate into a conflict. When we enter a meeting, we try to persuade and make the other people understand what your views are, but not to persuade them to win your argument. You must listen. You must try to compose yourself, even if some people will say things that maybe are not, you're not agreeing with them. Maybe they're slightly hurting you, or they're not things that you're expecting to hear. And then you must find a way of controlling yourself and understanding that you're in a dialogue whereby there are things that, the basic things that you must have in you so that you are able to achieve that win-win situation, not just defending your position and not putting into consideration the views of the other people. So in a constructive discussion, we said you must have those basic values, which are honest, openness, trust, and equality. And sometimes in a discussion, it can be a discussion which is internal, and sometimes you can have a discussion which is external, whereby it can be inter-party or different people. I mean, you're not same set of people. You're having people from other organizations or other sectors of the party. It could be between youth and women league in a branch, or a different set of people of civil society who've come to discuss on an issue. So you must understand now that how to handle those different things, because when an internal thing, this is an in-house thing, and how to handle it, you handle it in a different way than when you have external people, whereby some things are not supposed to be discussed, or you may want to involve a facilitator to control or guide the discussion so that it's a neutral dialogue, whereby one of the parties will not feel that the moderator or the facilitator could be biased in one way or another. So, and in that case, when you decide to have an external facilitator or an external person to guide the dialogue, it must be somebody who has those basic values, It must be person who is will portray that neutrality to all the parties. And that person, the most important thing, that person must also do a background check to understand what exactly is supposed to be discussed, and try to understand all the parties, do the background of all the parties, to know what are the issues and how are they likely to react, so that he's able to guide those 2 or 3 or more teams to come to an agreement in that discussion. In a dialogue, it can be a one-on-one meeting, it can be an online meeting, and all these, you must know that it's handled in a different way, and it can it gives a different results. Because when you're having a meeting like in a boardroom and you're discussing one-on-one, facing each other, and then you're automatically able to see even the facial expression of a person, and that you'll know that either this person is agreeing with this thing or not, or this person is uncomfortable. Someone is trying to move from his or her seats, trying to maybe step out and back most of the time, and then that tells you this person is uncomfortable. So, and then in that situation, you find a way of trying to understand what could have irritated this person, or this person is trying to engage other people who are or her supporters who are outside, is moving out to maybe make a phone call to ask, and maybe update the other people and get back maybe with a different set altogether. He might go out and coming back, he decides to disagree totally. So when you are in a physical meeting, you're able to see the physical expression or reactions of participants, and know how to deal with such an individual person. Those people are temperamental, there are those who are calm. So you'll have to guide the discussion in a way that you try to balance or even shift the discussion slightly, so that you are able to try and control a mood of one of the participants who is not comfortable with that discussion, by maybe generating a leading question that will make one to start now responding to it and feel is being accommodated back to the meeting. So you must know how to handle the 2 meetings. If it's an online meeting, people are away, sometimes you might be talking to somebody, and that somebody is maybe has muted the camera. You don't know how that person is, whatever things is doing. Maybe is bored with you, is doing other things, and you're just talking there, is not concentrating. So there are those challenges when you're doing maybe an online dialogue meeting. So sometimes it might be very difficult to get satisfied and agree that the other person has really understood you, and you're moving in the same direction, because maybe he's just listening there but doing his own things. Yeah, you're just talking, he's not concentrating. So when you're doing those online dialogue, you must be very careful so that you don't assume that you've achieved, or the meeting has been dialogical or not. The other important thing is you must understand that the setup or the location of the meeting matters a lot in a discussion. If you've chosen a meeting place whereby it is an environment where it's favoring one group of people or one party in terms of accessibility or in terms of setup of the meeting place, and then automatically you might not achieve exactly maybe what you want to achieve, because the other person, as much as maybe he or she will participate, you might feel that you are planning this meeting to favor the other person because maybe you have a certain intention. And even if after you finish that meeting, you might not have solved the problem as it was, or you might not have achieved a win-win situation for all the parties. So you must be very careful on the setup or the environment of the meeting. You must ensure that you're strengthening this dialogue, such that the ambience, the setup of the room is comfortability, that is, to make everybody feel they're actually respected, part and parcel of this discussion, so that they're able to openly share, they're able to listen and raise their issues and feel free to engage. The typical meetings is whereby they're dominated by very few people. You having maybe 2, 3 people, 5 people. Those are the typical meetings that you don't. Day-to-day meetings that we go through, maybe 2, 3, 5 people, and you don't talk a lot about different subjects at the same time. They are narrow, there are few issues to be handled. Maybe it's one subject, you want to get reactions or views of the participants. You don't fully include everybody or in the conversation, because it's just a symbol item you're discussing or an issue. It's not having a lot of problems. So typical meetings whereby you have 2 or 3 different documents, positions, they're repeated over and over again. And sometimes you might not have a clear conclusion or closure for actions, because it's something that maybe is a recurrent issue that you tend to deal with from time to time. How do you strengthen dialogue at meetings? Because it's not just you're just going for a meeting, you just discuss and say whatever the outcome, we'll just go by it and go. You must plan to strengthen that dialogue so that you're able to achieve a win-win situation, or almost an 100% agreement on an issue. So you must have structures. You must have structures that you must put structures in place. You don't just go into a meeting without planning and putting proper structures on how you will handle that meeting. And also your personal approach matters a lot. The frame of mind. I mean, if you're unstable with something going through your mind at that time, and then you might not be able to handle that meeting they're supposed to be handled, and then it becomes a problem. Why do we use structures at meetings? I've just touched on it. That structures will guide us on how we will, how the meeting will go and how the conclusions will be achieved. The structure of conversations matters a lot because it affects how we contribute to the conversation. It decides who will contribute to the conversation, and it can be more or less helpful to uphold the dialogical values. Three principles of facilitating that helps dialogue is to honor why, the question why. You must respect those people asks why, I mean, you trying to discuss this issue, and then there'll be a lot of questions arising. People want to know, they want clarification. The other thing, you must involve and engage the participants. If you don't involve everybody or engage everybody, and then at the end of the day, you might assume the meeting has gone well, but people will leave that meeting with a lot of questions in their minds that if you have given them a chance or you have involved them, they'll have raised their issues and you have discussed and come to a mutual agreement on that. The last issue must create a respectful and listening atmosphere. You don't do much of dictation and lecturing people. So when you asking yourself about this meeting, you must know, because when you're planning, you must know why you're planning this meeting. Why that meeting? What's the purpose of the meeting? Are people who are quarreling about positions? Are people who are fighting about office space? People who are fighting for nomination in a party primary? So you must ask yourself, why this meeting? And also get the theme of the meeting. Ask yourself, what outcomes do you want, or what do you need to achieve at the end of this meeting? And then ask yourself about the participants. Do you want to involve one or two supporters of these warring factions? Do you want to call how many number of people, 5 people, 10 people? You want to restrict this to maybe just 2 or 3 people having a conflict? And do you need a structure for this particular meeting? Because depending on the issue at hand, you might decide to structure or no structure. So the weight or the main issue of that meeting will guide you on how to move forward, whether to create a structure or whether to involve many people or whether to involve an external facilitator so that you are able to really achieve the purpose of that meeting. When you're involving all the participants, you must also learn to be quiet at some point, so that the participants are able to pour all their issues or their anger. And at the end of the day, even if they don't achieve what they wanted, but they'll feel you are much understanding, and you give them room to air the views, and they'll feel, at least, even if they are not achieved everything they wanted, but at least they raised all the issues, and they will live there knowing that you've heard them, or the other party has heard my issues. And maybe along the way, maybe they will go and try to interrogate themselves internally, and decide to maybe follow up on the same, so that you're able to be in the same page. The other thing, you must learn to balance the purpose of the meeting, balance the type of group. I mean, you must be democratic in this group. You must give them equality, and on an individual level, you must make people feel heard, seen, and included in this meeting. So you must be tactical and employ a balancing act in that meeting, and create a respectful and listening atmosphere that would give a level field, and all the participants to be open and free when they are airing their issues. I talked about the setup of the room and the environment. I'm sure, and I've said earlier that dialogue we come across in our day-to-day lives, maybe in our families and in every aspect of our life, maybe in our offices. If maybe you depending on the type of the participants or even the issue at hand, there are those meetings you might want to have them outside in the field, an open space that after knowing what you want to achieve and how these people might react, you might want to put it somewhere just in the field whereby people will have free space if somebody wants to react in this way and that way. That environment or setup of the meeting place will, in a way or the other, maybe make them not react in maybe a certain situation that might not be so good. If you are having maybe a meeting that it's a very sensitive meeting that you want to have in an enclosed area or a very distant place, that nobody or no supporter of one of the groups might come and interfere, and then you must put that consideration into place so that at least you somewhere whereby you at the end of the day, even if there was a disagreement and then it doesn't get out to the public or to a space whereby you do want it to get to. So you must make sure the venue or the setup of the place is so crucial. The other thing is when you are guiding a meeting, you must decide on what way or tools you can use to guide that meeting. Sometimes you want to use a certain model, which is called the talking stick, that will make people know that when you have a talking stick, whereby maybe traditionally you'd have somebody having a stick. You've seen those, maybe just give an example, an elder controlling a meeting, and he's having a stick. And when he stands and holds that stick or raises that stick, and that means everybody must listen, must keep quiet, and must respect that person at a particular time. But though maybe at some point some people might say that's more of a dictatorial way of controlling a meeting, some people might not be that comfortable, but you see, it shows that respect whereby somebody is leading that meeting at a particular time and is holding a stick. So everybody else must listen, and if you have an issue, you must wait and until you are given a space, or you're given the same stick now to stand and lead the meeting. So let me move to the next thing, which is conflict resolution. We said if a dialogue escalates, it becomes a conflict. So I've told you before that if you don't plan this meeting well, if you don't do your background check, if you don't consider proper setup or environment of the meeting, if you don't give people space and listen to them, the meeting might generate to a conflict. So if you miss one of those key planning aspects of a meeting, or key elements of achieving a dialogical meeting, and then the meeting might generate into a conflict. And nobody wants a conflict in a meeting unless you have your own intentions. A constructive dialogue or a well-planned dialogue will generate a positive result. But when you fail, or you don't plan well, and then maybe allow other people who are not part and parcel of the meeting, who don't understand why or what's happening in this meeting, maybe the supporters of one of the people, and then they want to put their other stance, that meeting might generate into a conflict. And now when conflict has generated, or a disagreement, and then now you think of how to resolve that conflict. So it takes you to a totally different aspect, whereby now you planning, you maybe putting resources, you involving other people to help you on how to resolve this conflict. Why is it difficult to deal with a conflict? A dialogue is very easy, but when you miss one aspect of planning, or you get it wrong, and then it becomes a conflict, and conflict is not that easy to resolve, because it can generate to violence, it can destabilize the entire organization, it can totally break down the entire plans that you had for maybe the organization, and then now you'll end up using all your time, all your energy and resources trying to resolve this conflict. So when conflict arose, and then you must now ask yourself other questions, because now you must bring these people to a conflict resolution, whereby the parties in a conflict must know what the conflict is really about. Because if some people thought that maybe they have done their part, they've contributed, they've put their best foot forward, and other people are still having issues with it, you didn't give them time to air their issues openly, and then they go and then they raise a problem, and then now you want to deal with this problem, and that brings you back to asking now, I want to have another meeting for this conflict resolution, and do these parties understand what the problem really is? one group of people have gone with a different reaction, questions that are not being answered, and the other group feel that on their side, everything was okay, and they understood, and they think their issues have been dealt with. So you can't assume that now you want to deal with the problem, that everybody understands what the real problem is. And then you want to know that one of the groups might react or respond depending on their emotions. Maybe because maybe they didn't understand at that particular time when the meeting or the dialogue was taking place, one or two things, and then they will come with anger. They want to react with their emotions, and then it becomes a serious problem. Again, you must know that this now a place whereby there is tension, because the conflicts arose, people will now react with hunger. There's a lot of tension. People might fight. So you must know that the way you handle this, you have to bring yourself to a certain level that will control their anger and make them now calm, so that they are able to now start discussing soberly. Basic elements in a conflict: we have facts, interpretations, feelings, needs, and actions. If there's a conflict, you can't just try to resolve a conflict if you don't have facts at hand. You must have facts from all the parties. You must do your fact finding or background check again to know that what are the issues being raised by these people or the other group. You must be able to know their feelings, their needs, actions, how they might want to react in these meetings, so that you're able to have conflict resolution whereby you achieve and resolve that particular problem. Tools or models: you must know what you'll use in order to, have the best communication when you're handling this conflict, how to mediate, and analyze those particular issues that have been the various factions have raised. So you must read the mood of the people, the feelings. You must know that they might react in this or the other way, and then get to know which way you will handle this conflict. And when there's a conflict, you must know that people are maybe hurt, they are disappointed, they are sad, and maybe another group is calm, relaxed. So you must try to understand all these groups. Others might get irritated, they might get angry, and you fail to resolve this conflict at the end of the day. So if you don't do it and get the right tools to use, and then you will again fail to achieve, because maybe it's just a misunderstanding. The way you guide the dialogue earlier, you didn't do it well, that some group misunderstood you, and yet you were handling it in the best way, but they just misunderstood you because you didn't do it in the right way, and then it becomes very difficult to even bring them to understanding. So you must understand why this generated into a conflict, and what we'll use to now make these people comfortable and back to sitting discussion, whereby you will be able to solve that particular conflict. And when you're doing that, as said, you must get facts without charging people. If you do so, and then now you might escalate again into a more serious problem, you must know the feelings of the people, and you must also express yourself, your feelings, without criticizing or blaming one or the other party. You must have that neutrality. You must understand and explain what needs you have that are not being met. I mean, you must give them that space to, to air their feelings, and also make their requests on how exactly or what they want, so that you're able to find out a best way of making their needs maybe catered for in a certain manner. I'm seeing my time of consumed almost an hour, and maybe my presentation, if you do a long presentation, some people might get bored. I want to ask my colleagues to come in and add something on top, or make their contribution, so that we're able to go to the session of questions. So can you allow me to invite Evelyn Mwanso to make his make our contributions, and then I will go to Professor Mwange. Evelyn.
Yeah, thank you very much, Meli. You've practically touched on what we went through, but mine, maybe I would have had a different approach towards the whole thing, by first of all saying that you have to be part of the conflict yourself. You have to understand what the conflict is all about. Secondly, you need to make sure that you are going to have a successful dialogue in whatever you're doing. So there are those pertinent questions, as you said before, that you need to ask yourself before you even call for that dialogue. And the questions are, what's the purpose of the meeting and the desired outcome? If we have two warring parties within our party, for example, ANC, you're calling for that meeting to have a dialogue to resolve a conflict. What is the purpose and what is your desired outcome? Your desired outcome is to ensure that the warring parties come together and work in harmony. And then how do you structure the meeting to reach your desired outcome? Yes, you're calling these guys for a meeting. How are you going to structure it so that you have your desired outcome, which is to ensure that the warring parties are going to work together as a team? One of the things you're going to do is to ensure that, of course, you inform them about the meeting on time. You yourself, you need to have understood what the conflict is all about. You need to know the needs of the people who have the conflict, because there is that conflict resulting or coming out of a disagreement on something. So you need to know what is their need. Maybe their need is they need to change the leadership in the branch. So your approach is going to be very important on that one. You have to know the facts. How did this conflict come about? Who started the conflict? How are we going to solve that conflict? And how are you going to interpret that particular conflict? How are the participants going to interpret that particular conflict? And then the action. What action are you going to take? For example, you have brought these people together to have a dialogue so that you resolve a conflict. You need to have a follow-up on that particular meeting to see how they are getting on after they have spoken about that particular conflict. So that is very important. Now, another thing we have talked about is how can you make the meeting dialogical? You want them to have a dialogue. How are you going to ensure that these people have that dialogue in a structured manner so that they can reach an agreement and resolve that conflict? You're also going to make a concrete design for the meeting. Best if you have a real meeting you can use before we meet next time. So that means that you are going to design the meeting. You talked about the tools that will be used during the dialogue. So we have called the people for a dialogue. And as you call these people, make sure that you include the right people and enough people for the dialogue. So the right people. If it is, for example, a conflict based on nominations heading to the general elections, that means you'll have to have the chair of the elections board, for example, in that particular meeting. You will have the resolutions committee chair in that meeting. You will have the people who are not agreeing in that particular meeting. So the right people and enough people during the meeting. Then you who is chairing that particular meeting, you have to give direction during the dialogue. Give direction so that as we come on that table to dialogue, okay, you who is heading that particular meeting, give direction and say, we are here for this and this purpose, and this is how we're going to carry out ourselves so that we can reach a conclusion and end this conflict. You have to have control of the group. And that's why we have the tools. Like the talking stick, actually. The talking stick is, for example, as the facilitator or as the person leading that particular dialogue, I will have this pen because in our normal meetings, you'll find that a certain group of people are the only ones talking. And during that particular meeting, we divert from the topic that we were talking about, and we talk about other different issues within one issue. So to control that particular meeting, you have, for example, the pen. So to control it, you hand over the pen, for example, to the chairman, Saina Nechu. That is his turn to speak. And therefore, when he's speaking, because he has the stick in his hand, or the pen for that matter, everybody else is quiet and listening to him. After he finishes, then the facilitator or the person heading the dialogue will say, pass the stick on to Joyce Ndinda. So Joyce Ndinda will be speaking as the others listen. And in that way, you will find that all the opinions of those who are participating in that dialogue are heard. Okay. Then we have conducive environment, which Melly talked about, whereby you make sure that everyone is comfortable, that it's not just conducive to one group of people and not to another group of people. Maybe it could be a hotel setup, it could be the party headquarters, just a very conducive environment for that meeting. The way they're going to sit in that particular meeting, is it a conference way? Are they facing each other? Are their backs facing another one's back like that? No. So the best way would be for people to face one another during that dialogue. Then the moderator and facilitator should be friendly. This is a person who should not be having sides, should not be already having a set mind that when I go into that meeting, then I'm going to favor this side or favor this side. It's good to listen to all the opinions and be friendly as much as possible. Be calm, be cool, listen. As Melly has said, a time may arise when people even want to punch each other. So you, as the moderator, you need to ensure that you have a way of calming the participants who may want to throw blows at each other. Another thing is during the dialogue, how are you going to come to a conclusion? How do you make that decision? You find that we have typical decisions that are arrived at. We may have a consensus, like what we are seeing with the BBI. We are trying to have a consensus because we want to avoid the issue of having a referendum that is not, bringing everybody together, So already that referendum may have conflicts because there is no consensus. So we can have consensus to come up and say, now we want to decide like this, okay? If you want the chair of the branch to come from this region, therefore we are saying that let the secretary come from this region. If the treasurer is coming from the eastern region, then let us have the organizing secretary coming from the northern region, consensus. Then you can make decisions also, minority decision, which may not be so good because that means some people will be left out when it comes to minority decision. And then we have majority decision. I think that one is okay because then most of the participants in that dialogue are agreeing on whatever will have been passed. Then we have the authority decision whereby the leader, in most cases, you'll find that when a leader is in that kind of dialogue, they maybe tend to want to give the decision, which may not be also so good because that is an authoritarian kind style of doing ways, and we want everybody to be included. Then we have the plop. The plop is an idea that comes up during the discussion or during the dialogue, but it does not reach a conclusion. It flops on the way, and practically everybody is silent about it. Nobody responds to it. That is a plop decision. And then we have the decision that is total in agreement. Okay, so everybody is totally in agreement that yes, let the chair come from the northern region, let the secretary come from the eastern, let the organizing come from the western, and so on. So for us, therefore, to gauge ourselves even more, then we ask ourselves, what did the participants do that made the dialogue successful, fruitful, or less fruitful? Then we can also ask ourselves, the moderator also, the facilitator, you as the facilitator, what did you do that made that dialogue fruitful or less fruitful? So then we gauge ourselves from there and say, okay, this was fruitful because the moderator allowed everybody to be listened to. It was not fruitful because the participants came out still not satisfied about the dialogue. And therefore, Belly touched on most of the the things that we went through. And at the end of the day, we are saying, whatever it is, let us ensure that we make the dialogue successful, and therefore make sure that the conflict is resolved. And let us implement whatever we discuss in that particular meeting, the dialogue. Once it is sorted, let us go and make sure that we implement it, and we implement it when it's still fresh in our heads, so that we don't come back again and say, okay, we agreed on this, but we've gone back, it's not working, and all that. During the dialogue also, you can use a table. As Melly said, we are not able maybe to do that and show you. You can use a table whereby we have the questions that are asked during the dialogue, and then we see the outcome of that question during the dialogue. Now, when you're asking the questions during the dialogue, make sure that the questions do not make one of or either of the parties feel that they are being hit at. Ask the questions in such a way that the participants feel one side is not being looked down upon, so that we don't have that side continuing to feel aggrieved. Use a table showing the current situation and the outcome. So the current situation is the participants are fighting over this. And then at the end of the dialogue, we want to see what was the outcome. The outcome is the warring parties agreed that the chair will come from the Eastern region. Many talked about dealing with conflicts when they escalate. As I've said, you as the moderator, try to ensure that you keep everybody calm and that people listen to one another. I've talked about being part of the conflict. I think that is what we can do in order to resolve conflicts. As I've said before, let us ensure that we have the right people in that particular meeting, so that we don't have people who are just coming to listen and even make the situation worse. Okay. As we go out into the field, let us look at concrete situations that we have. And from what we've learned today, let us see the best way on how we're going to make sure that we can be able to resolve conflicts. I wished this was a physical meeting, because then we would have shared even more on what we learned. But let us engage participants, give directions, give a summary if you are the one in charge of that particular dialogue, and respect each person's opinions. Each person has a different opinion. Reaching consensus may take time, but if we respect one another's opinions, I think then we will be able to achieve whatever we want to achieve from that particular dialogue. Thank you so much, Kinyua.
Thank you, Flynn. Kinyua, I can't see Mwange online. I don't know if it's, yeah. Professor Mwange, I don't think he is online.
Yes, I don't think we have him, but Maybe is there anything that you want to add before we open to the plenary?
What I can say, I would request the participants, because they come from various branches, at least to pick something on way of conducting dialogues, planning or structuring for a dialogue, and those core values and or many of the things we're discussing here, so that they're able to embrace in their branches, because we know in the branches is where we have a lot of issues, because we have elections, branch elections, we have maybe people fighting for who to do this, who to do that, maybe those boundaries whereby each and every member doesn't know. If you are the chairman, you don't know exactly your mandate, or the secretary, and then those conflicts of fighting. This person is doing this, communicating, instead of the other person who's supposed to maybe communicate with the head office, or there is a meeting somewhere, can be in a sub branch, and then they have not informed the branch, or they inform the maybe the secretary of the branch instead of through this other person, and then those conflicts are there. We hope that our members who are coming from various branches here, we have almost all the branches, they're able to now know that these are the do's and don'ts, and that we have to try as much as possible to be dialogical in our meetings, so that we are able to bring everybody on board, not a situation whereby someone feels that he's being blamed, is being criticized, is being understood wrongly, and maybe is being his rights being infringed, is being interrupted when he wants to do something, or he wants to hold his meeting in a sub branch, or a women league or a youth league. So we must learn that the best way we make sure that we have dialogues most of the time, and dialogues are constructive. We must listen to each other. We must understand each other, and we must be open and sincere to each other when we're having this meeting, so that we're able to avoid dialogues escalating into a conflict. Thank you, Kinwa.
Thank you so much, Melly, and thank you, Evelyn. And the members, you have quite had some of what the two leaders have been able to share. And it was indeed a good training that they underwent for 6 days. And this was just a tip of the knowledge that they were able to acquire from that training. So let me now open the floor. We're going to begin with Omulo Jr., William Kaisha, and Honorable Basil Mwakiringo, that you can give your inputs. And I like to request the other members, if you're not speaking, if it's not your chance to contribute, kindly mute, so that you may not have the interruptions. Omulo, William, and then Basim.
Thank you, Kinwa. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you. Proceed.
Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity to give our views. And I believe I want to thank Melly and Evelyn for giving a very elaborate and articulating issues in regards to conflict management, which is very important to us as leaders. I believe that in most cases, we spend over 40 to 50% of our time solving conflicts as leaders. But to some extent, there are also conflicts that can be avoided. There are also others that can be accommodated. Because if you look at how we are supposed to solve conflicts, there are steps that needs to be taken into consideration. One is open communication to both parties, and also giving hearing to all parties in a manner that it come up with a win-win situation. And sometimes what makes me wonder, and I wanted to ask those who have done presentation, and also because we also have our chair of conflict management, to what extent or to what degree do we qualify a matter to be a conflict, or what is the minimum threshold for a matter to be admitted to the conflict resolution committee of a political party? Sometimes we find that there are also some normal competition which cannot qualify to be a conflict. For example, competitions that raises temperatures in an environment where people are looking for a political position. Does it qualify to be a conflict to be solved? And I think for now, that is what now I can ask. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Are you able to hear me? Yes, now
Yes.
my name is William Kaisha. I'm the branch secretary Vihiga County. Mine I want to be
William?
especially the national office. Some of these conflicts that are emanating from the head office, which can be resolved there, and you find us having a good time here on the ground. Like for instance, the head officers are several instances allowed various lobby groups to the party. The lobby groups, some of them, they are even operating without, like for instance, you find somebody wakes up in the morning, says, I've started Salia Powerhouse, Youth from Salia, etc. And then these lobby groups come with their personal interests to the party. They look down upon the party structures. Now they even go as saying they want to come and organize the party in various branches because they assume or they believe party structures are not strong or are not working. I don't know. But now my problem is sometimes some of these lobby groups, when their interests are not met, the person who found them decided to quit the party and he goes with the members. But something that is funny now, the lobby groups, most of them are very much embraced the party at the expense of the party structures. So like that one now, it results into a conflict. This conflict can be solved very easily because we don't deny the party to have lobby groups, but we should have a proper way of doing things, whereby if somebody comes in with an idea of forming a lobby group, this person should know that we have existing structures. Let the existing structures work hand in hand with that lobby group. In fact, the structures are the ones to supervise and regulate the lobby groups. That can easily be solved by the head office so that we move together and we also work in unison towards the same goal. So that is what I have realized, and I just wanted it to go through so that, and again, we have another situation whereby we may have an election in a county or in a different county. You find out the party structures from this county would want to go and assist the structures from the other county. Immediately, this party official from this county visits that the other county to give up. These other people who feel they are lobby groups or so, they now start saying, no, these people have been given money to go and do this and this and this. So those are some of the conflicts that we have, and I think the head office or the national secretariat can look into that, because they are the ones to solve such things, so that here on the ground we get ground level for doing our issues. Thank you for the few comments that I had.
Thank you so much, William. Let me invite Nick Biketi so that he can give his contribution. Yes, Nick, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Kinyua, and thank you so much, Meli and Evelyn Mwanzo. For those who we have interacted with, you know that I'm an advocate, so this is what conflict is, what we do day to day. And I think this is quite well timed, coming at a point where, like Edie said, we are looking into going into elections, that is the party elections. And more so considering the path we've traveled, we've had quite a number of issues. And I'm very happy with what Mwanzo and Meli have elaborated. Most critically, what I wanted to say was that if Mwanzo and Meli could come together and develop what they've put out as a policy document on conflict resolution for the party. Because from there, then we can institutionalize or set up a system under which conflict resolution can be undertaken, and training of other individuals on conflict resolution. As you may well understand, conflict resolution might not necessarily be undertaken at the structures of the party as set out in the instruments of the party, so to speak, maybe the party constitution. But conflicts can also arise. Mwanzo, you remember in Kakamega County, even members themselves can have conflicts among themselves, so that you'll be calling in another party to undertake the conflict, or between the two cells, or whatever factions, so to speak, can come together and undertake the process of trying to resolve the conflict. So that whatever document you develop can actually be used as a training guide and also a policy document to help members on resolving conflicts at whatever level. I want to believe, Meli, even as colleagues at the headquarters, you can develop conflicts, so that the conflicts are not only arising from political contestations. And this I say because if members of the party can have what you guys have set out, then we can create harmony. Like Isaac Kinyua said in his opening remarks, if we can have harmony, both for those who help us in the administration functions of the party, and even us as the members of the party, then we leave a lot of space for progressive engagements other than conflict situations, which as members of ANC, you know that we've had a fair part of our time spent on conflict. So for me, what I wanted to say before I leave the meeting was that this is quite impressive, and I want to congratulate Mwanzo and Meli, because the way they were speaking, I could clearly understand that they have internalized the training, and they, as you call them, Kinywa, they're now trainers of trainers. I think this should be encouraged. Sessions should be set up, maybe even way before we get into what we can call the hot time frame, which is next year and the year after, so that some of these mechanisms can be done, set out, and try to disseminate that kind of knowledge to as many members as possible. Thank you so much for having invited me into this meeting. Even as a lawyer, I've been able to benefit a lot in some of the issues that you've set out. You know, for us, we operate in an adversarial system. Adversarial system does not allow some of those things that you're talking about, that you have to understand the other party. We don't give chance to that. It is a war. So I've been able to appreciate a number of things. I've benefited a lot. And I encourage that this policy, this conflict resolution approach should be set out on a policy paper and be adopted as a party document. Thank you so much, Kinywa. Thank you, Meli. Thank you, Mwanzo, and other members. Unfortunately, I have to leave because I have clients who've been waiting for the last about 1 hour. Thank you.
A request, Kinywa, let me say thank you to Akili. He has brought in a very important topic about policy documents. Because these conflicts are there, we cannot run away from them. They are there down in the branches, up to all the top level. And if you have a policy document, and then things becomes very easy. There are maybe give a guideline whereby there are conflicts that can be handled at the branch level. There are, maybe we set up committees in our branch structures who will deal with conflicts in the sub-branch and maybe even the ward level. And then we separate all these conflicts that when a conflict reaches this situation, and then it comes to maybe National Disciplinary Committee and such and such. So thank you, Akili, because I think now we need to guide us, and then we go the drawing board on how we will draw a policy on this. Thank you so much.
Meli, was before you and Evelyn respond to some of the questions raised, perhaps we can give the ED, Madam Dani, an opportunity to contribute also, because there's something she has indicated in the chat. ED, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, Margaret, we can hear you.
Yes. Yeah, you wanted me to say something, and my phone has issues.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello? Yes,
we wanted
what
you
I want to say, appreciate what Councillor Biketi has just gone through, what he has tried explaining to us, that really as a party we spent a lot of conflict resolutions, close to 2-3 years. And as we now move into the general election, we want to avoid that. We want to have very minimal conflicts in the party because we don't have time. And therefore, we need to organize maybe other sessions with our branches so that they are able to deal with certain conflicts at the branch level before they, I can in Kakamega resolution. I'm glad that having this session in Kakamega or even Sia and other counties where she calls the head office, the national office, cannot do everything. And then we can also not push everything to IDRC. IDRC will deal with very, very serious matters during elections and so forth. But at our own level, we can start dealing with some of these issues at county level. So I want to wish everybody the remaining minutes because I have to leave. My phone is not behaving very well at the discussions. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you so much, Idi. We have Basil Mokiringo, and then I will hear from Saina Nechu, and then we give it back to Nicholas and Evelyn. Basil, followed by Saina. Okay, then we can hear from Saina Nechu. Do you have Saina Nechu? Okay, then as we wait for Saina and Basil to get back, I can.
Saina needs to unmute his mic. Eh?
Yeah. Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Proceed.
Okay. Firstly, I want to really appreciate the organizers of this meeting today about conflict management because, like in Wasingishu, we are going to have a meeting tomorrow with the county commissioner about the same. And I think I've learned a lot about conflict management. And then secondly, I want to ask us as a party to really try to look at our constitution and try to always follow the laws set in the constitution. Because some of the conflicts are caused by some people who don't want to follow the rule of laws as set in our rule book. So I want to think that it is important as a people, we always follow our rules to ensure that we are always on the right path to avoid some conflicts. A point in I can point something that I've seen of late from the party, that you find some people going around trying to identify some names and putting some names here and there, so that we find that actually what they are doing is outside the law, but then it causes a lot of confusion, and this confusion will lead to some conflict at some places. So I really want to appreciate what we've learned from Meli, Ibn Mwanzo, and actually the facilitators. And I want to say that we appreciate so much if these things can be brought down to the grassroots at the counties. We'll really appreciate.
Thank you so much, Saina. Nick, Meli, and Evelyn. Is it okay if we take some more responses?
I just want to say something on what Kaisha brought up regarding the lobby groups. I think our party has clearly stipulated what is required of lobby groups. Lobby groups are supposed to follow certain laid down procedures for them to be recognized as lobby groups. We've had instances and situations whereby a group of people just come up overnight and say now they are a lobby group, and they have not followed the laid down procedures of the party. So for any group to come up as a lobby group, I hope Kaisha is listening to this, they should have followed the laid down procedures as stipulated by the party. And I believe maybe the office could also be having a certificate to give to a lobby group, so that we don't have them doing things contrary to what is required by the party. So let them follow the laid down procedures, let them have something to identify from the party headquarters that they are actually a lobby group, and that lobby group is usually confined to a certain extent that they can go in the party. They are coming up as a lobby group to do A, B, C, D. So therefore, they should be confined to that particular space and not overstep their mandate as stipulated by what is required of them by the party. I want to agree with what Councillor Nick Biketi said. I think this is very important for us now that we are heading to party elections. And of course, running up to the general elections, we'll also have the nominations and so on. And we need to have that policy document in place. And with your help, CMD, I'm sure we can be able to do that. And also to come up with a training guide. Now, remember, we are trainers of trainers, so we need to continue training our people so that it disseminates to the grassroots level, so that it goes to the branches and down, so that as we do our things, come the general elections and party elections, then people know this is the right procedure to follow if we will have any party that will be aggrieved. And it doesn't have to come even up to the national office or to the secretariat, but down here at our branches, then we can be able to resolve those conflicts. Saina has said something very important, that let us as members of the party follow what is in the rule book so that we avoid not being ignorant and doing things that we are not supposed to do, and yet they are well stipulated in our rule book or in our party constitution. Thank you. Kinywa.
Thank you so much. Before Melly, you give you respond. Let's give, because of time, we have two more people who wanted to give their inputs. We have William Kaisha. I believe William has contributed. We have Ronald Simiyu and Pamigara. So once the two give their inputs, then we can have Melly and Evelyn. You can give your closing remarks.
Thank you very much. My name is Ronald Simiyu from Trans Nzoia branch. I want to appreciate for today's meeting, because at the end of the day, I've acquired knowledge that I will try to implement in my branch. I also want to make a request that our trainers to organize so that we can expand such a training to other leaders in the branch and also to members, so that we minimize the time we use to resolve the conflict in our branches. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Simiyu. We have Pam.
Okay, thank you, members. Through the chair, I'd like to make just some comments. Effective communication does not just help the leaders, it also helps the members. And one of the things that I've also seen in our party, there's that gap in communication. And if we check the social media platforms, there's a lot of information that comes out. Some of them are ideas, some of them are suggestions, some of them are actually very good, but it appears that this information just disappears in the thin air. And from the information that both Melly and Evelyn have given, dialogue is two-way. The leaders do communicate and the people communicate. For us to have it effective, it must be from both ends. And even before we settle or even we resolve conflicts, we should stop the conflicts. And how do we stop the conflicts? By having effective communication, by listening to the people. And the general feeling that you get is that people are not listened to, or their ideas are not listened to, or their suggestions are not listened to. It's like there's a big gap. So this conference, whatever, this webinar is timely,
And I hope that it actually goes a long way into solving the miscommunication, because we can have not just miscommunication, there's also misdialogue, which also leads to conflict. Good communication, I said, is essential, especially right now when people are actually working remotely because of COVID-19. As we work from home and wherever, the means of communication has now become only through digital devices. And therefore, the importance of dialogue that actually is effective and communicates the right information. So we should build the clear lines of communication between not the party and the members, so that we can have effective team building, and the teams will know exactly this is our goal, this is our objective, this is what we want, and we work together as a team. That's the major thing. When we don't have that, then the opposite develops. There's improductivity, the output is down. But if we flip and improve our dialogue, because I tend to think it's just dialogue that we don't have, the effective dialogue we're not having, the morale will improve. Those conflicts that we are set to solve will disappear if we build and communicate effectively. People don't really want conflict. We have many things to deal with. What are you fighting in the party for? You have other issues to fight for. But just tell people this is this. Let people deal with it and live with it. Conflicts also will always be there. We cannot always, they'll always be there with us. The conflicts at home, the conflicts wherever. And they all come because of communication. How you communicate. You may communicate and people develop assumptions. Like that analogy of half full, half empty. People will view things differently. So my contribution is simply that let's have clear lines of communication to avoid going into the solving the conflict. Let us first of all not go into the conflict. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam. I kindly request the other participants to be on mute. We have Honorable Basil Mokiringo. I also see we have Hamstrong Mukoya and Nivar Vuguza. Can kindly take 1 minute each to give your contributions. Basil, can you hear me? No, Basil, you have to unmute so that you can contribute.
Unmute. Yes, I've done that.
Yes,
can you hear me now?
Yes, you can proceed.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to thank the convener, especially CMD, for this very important session. Much as I joined a bit late, but I want to concur with most of the submissions from my colleague participants. That communication, yes, is equally very important. But with our ANC membership and officials, either from the sub-branch to branch level, most of them have not had the culture of reading our party constitution and even the guidebook which we have, rule book which we have. Because communication is communicated anyhowly, anybody can comment anything. Sometimes it's very abusive, sometimes it's not good, and then some people, it makes others to retreat, not to comment. But I think once we read the culture, we understand what our rule book says and our constitution, then our contributions will definitely be very, very positive in developing our party. Number two, most of the time I've been in the office, I've not received quite a number of communication seeking clarification from the head office on if we said this or what is the position on.
Thank you, Basil. Do we have I saw we have Denver wanted to give her inputs that you have it now. Denver, do we still have you? Okay, now let me give it back to Melly and Evelyn so that you may give your inputs and then wind up the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Kinywa. I wanted to respond a bit. Omulo Jr. talked about what you can call a conflict, at what level you can call a disagreement, a conflict. I think I've tried to answer him there that conflict is a conflict. That disagreement or argument, whatever thing that you are not agreeing or a clash, it is a conflict, whether small or big. And if you leave it, you don't handle it, you don't resolve it at that early stage, it becomes a problem. You just don't assume. Maybe sometimes you might assume others and they just sort themselves out. But a conflict is a conflict, whether small or big is a conflict. Kaisha talked about the lobby groups. We have a clear guideline on lobby groups, and also the constitution is clear on how they operate. And usually before they're registered, they must deposit their document on their jurisdiction, their membership, and all the other things, so that where they operate and how they operate, it's very clear. So the problem is when they go out there and they start doing their things, or they start operating against the guideline or against the party constitution, and then now that becomes a conflict that has to be resolved as early as it starts. So I think that's very clear. The other thing, Pam Ikara talked about effective communication. I think that's where there's a big problem also, because when you don't communicate effectively, some people feel left out, some people feel they're ignored, people feel they're not part of this team or this group, and then it starts generating a problem. But I think it is again when we don't understand the constitution, which is guiding us, whereby we know we're supposed to communicate, how and to who. If there is a circular, for example, that is sent out to, let's say, to Nairobi County chairperson, and then he has not communicated to his structures or the way he's supposed to communicate to the people he's supposed to communicate to, and then now there's a breakdown in communication. Now it again generates a problem or conflict. So sometimes it's good to follow the constitution, read the constitution, know your mandate as a chairman, as a secretary, like that, so that you know who's communicating, at what time, who is not doing his work. Then you are able to handle problems as early before it generates into a serious problem. And again, Pamikara was saying about maybe team building and bringing people together. If you have a regular meetings, let's say, for example, a branch. If you don't do meetings, you stay for 6 months, you stay for a year. People don't know what's happening. It's like you're sleeping on your job, and then it generates problems. So if you're able to have frequent meetings, regular meetings, you're able to iron out these issues before they become a problem. You're able to listen to various sub-branches or various organs of the party in your branches, and you'll be able to handle their situations as early as they come. So it's important to have these regular meetings, so that you're able to discuss issues as they come and move together. But if you don't have regular meetings, issues arise and nobody handling them, they complain, nobody's responding to them, and then it automatically becomes a problem or a conflict that now it will become difficult to be resolved. So I think I've tackled all the questions, but I think again, Kenya, as we move forward, what I was thinking, if you can have a manual that guide, you see in this training, you can generate a small manual that can guide people in resolving conflicts, how they can resolve various issues, or the modes they need to use, how they need to identify when problems are almost generating a conflict. As much as Wakili talked about policy documents, that's a big area. But if you can have small documents that I've seen you do booklets on various areas on elections, how elections are conducted, and many other booklets we've received before from CMD-Kenya. If you can have a small document on conflict resolution in political parties, I think this will go a long way in helping our branches to handle small issues the branch level before they escalate into big problems. Thank you. I think that's all. Unless there's any questions I have not dealt with. Kenya.
Thank you so much, Melly. Now going to give to Evelyn, who will give her input and also give her the closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kinyua. I want to sincerely thank CMD for convening this virtual meeting so that we can share those very important lessons that we were taught spanning over 6 sessions. I want to thank the participants for finding time to be here with us. And we need to know that conflicts will always be here with us, starting right from our homes to our political space to our workplaces. And therefore, we should not just narrow down this to our political space. We should also look at ourselves in our workplaces, in our homes, when we have conflicts. How are we handling them? Do these conflicts come about, for example, as a result of disliking one another, maybe hating one another, not liking the way somebody does things, and so on and so forth? Therefore, I want to say that going forward, I think we are now able to organize for a dialogue meeting in case we have issues at whatever level. We as party members can be able to organize for a meeting and resolve issues that we have, and not necessarily just looking at the secretariat to do everything for us, because they can only do so much. But we ourselves as members of ANC party, how can we resolve issues at our particular branches in our particular counties, so that we don't have blame games of, oh, Margaret is not doing this, Melly is not doing this, the secretariat is not doing this. The party is us. And therefore, we need to take responsibility as members of the party when issues arise within the party. And we are in that position whereby we can be able to resolve these conflicts. Let us do it. I don't think most of the time you'll find that communication nowadays is so much on our media platforms. You'll find on a WhatsApp group, from nowhere issues escalate. People start quarreling. You don't know head or tail of this particular conflict. The people who are fighting on that WhatsApp group have never come out and maybe informed the party secretariat, informed the Women League, informed the branch chair, and the branch executive that we are having this problem, and therefore can we have a meeting and resolve this issue? The war is brought on a WhatsApp group. And therefore you as a leader, the only thing you can say is, please guys, cool down, kindly try to resolve it on your other WhatsApp group, or call for a meeting and see how you can resolve this particular conflict. So we are not going to blame other people for the conflicts that we have. No. You have a conflict in your space, kindly convene a meeting. For those now who have participated in this particular program, you have tools. Get the right people, get enough people, control the group, make sure that you have the tools, everybody's opinion to be listened to. Try to solve that particular issue amicably, through consensus, through majority, whatever way you can solve it. If it escalates, then move on to another level. Bring it to the branch officials. If the branch officials cannot still solve, then bring it to the leaders up here. Bring it to the secretariat. We have the resolutions committee in place with the party. Then we can do what? We can sit down and say, okay, from what our policy document is saying, and I like what Councillor Nick Biketi has said, we come up with that policy document, because that policy document is going to guide us and every member of the party on how we are going to resolve conflicts within ourselves and have proper dialogue. So that we sit down and now say, okay, it has now reached here. Now that it has reached here, now we are looking at it from where you started. It came to the branch. What did the branch say? Now it has reached here. Now we have to solve this particular issue. And therefore, our participants, I know we will engage more on this. If you have any more questions, kindly get in touch. We are here with Meli and Professor Ifeda. We can help you on whatever is ailing you, but there are conflicts whereby could be emanating out of personal issues. There are those ones now, it's a bit difficult to engage in that kind of conflict, like the one Omulo was saying, political competition. Political competition will always be there. So there is an extent to which leaders can come in to resolve that particular political competition. We may have opinion leaders, we might have the branch executive and so on to help you resolve that particular issue. But political competition, you will always have a political competitor and you will always brush shoulders throughout as you go about your daily engagement. So, but from what we are getting from the members, we will ensure that even if we come up with a policy document and a training guide, we will look at the issues that you've raised. Thank you so much, ANC members, for your time. And I'm sure from now, we will be able to solve our conflicts within our party. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. And it is Hopper from here, Center for Multi-Party Democracy, that the members of the Amani National Congress at various levels of leadership are going to use the information that they have acquired from this meeting in their day-to-day activities in the party, in being able to resolve conflict and offering a dialogue platform to dissenting voices in the politics. And we are going to share the materials. Actually, Evelyn and Meli, I believe you have all the materials from the training, and I know you'll be in a position to share the documents with the political parties, and we look forward to supporting the party in any way possible, so that we can see that the duty bearers are well equipped with skills and knowledge in being able to settle conflicts, so that we can have a bit more better peaceful political environment. Thank you so much from the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. We appreciate all members for taking their time to be part of this discussion, and we wish you all the best and happy festive seasons. And let us meet next year as we continue with this deliberation. Thank you so much, and may God bless you all. Kwaherini.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Evelyn.
Merry Christmas, yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Mama.
Bye.
Nechu. Nechu is contesting for Uruma Ward. Let us pray for him.
We will support him.
My hand was constantly up, but I was not given an opportunity, but it's well.
Saina Nechu is contesting for Uruma Ward. Let us wish him well and pray for him. Yeah.